simple title here, gets right to the point. Just how many of them are we gonna get? How are they gonna be? What are they gonna do? Uh, let's see. Starting with the IMDb plot, two scientists try to stop a mutation that turns people into werewolves. Shocking. After being touched by a supermoon the year before. All right. Um, New film recently released. Um Obviously about werewolves, and so we'll try to kind of keep this spoiler free. I don't know that there's so many twists and turns here to kind of ruin anything here. Um, but so I guess what do we have here? I'm let's just say right off the start, I'm not gonna pretend I came up with this to start, but I think if I hadn't read it first, I think I would have come to the same assumption. But this movie is basically The Purge, but with werewolves. I saw that mentioned by somebody before I saw the movie, and then I saw it, and I'm like, yes, that's correct. So I'm saying it here, crediting it to whoever, but I think if I had not read that and watched the movie, I would have come up with the same reasoning. But that's basically what it is. So, if you kind of want to know what the movie's about or whatever, as quickly as possible, that's the best way to kind of describe it. Um, but to kind of carry on and to kind of get a little bit more into it without getting stuff away, basically we have here um, a, a different, kind of setting here. A world where people are in fear of the werewolves coming out on the super moon. Basically, anybody who's kind of out and kind of looks up and into the moon, they're basically going to become a werewolf. Uh, so some people have, kind of already kind of locked their housing in, locked themselves in, kind of secured themselves as best as possible. Everybody knows not to kind of go out and so forth. But obviously, that's not always the case. There's obviously going to be people out there, whatever, and so forth. Um, you have a lab here, big lab here that has caught certain people who I guess are already prone to it and already expected to become a werewolf on the night of, and they are set to kind of run a big experiment with a drug that's supposed to stop the process. I think that's what they were going for there. And obviously, we're going to meet a couple of the characters. Obviously, one of them is the same guy that, was starred in several of the Purge movies. So again, makes it very easy to kind of make the connection there. And he's one of the scientists here, even though he does some very good stuff with the action things for a scientist, but whatever. They're gonna try to run this experiment. It looks like it's gonna go well, but then of course we know it's a horror movie and we need to release some werewolves and cause some chaos. So it doesn't go well, and werewolves are formed there in the lab and kill a bunch of people, and some escape, and we have that, and then that kind of sets off this guy and another scientist there not only having to escape, but then they're trying to make it back out, and particularly back to his house, where his sister-in-law, I believe it was his sister-in-law, is there. His brother had passed away, and she is there alone with her daughter, and the house is as you would expect, kind of secure and so forth. Um, but he's trying to make it back there to ensure her safety. So uh, lots of stuff happened on both ends. As he tries to make his way back, and then her at the house, we kind of see her there, and she gets him in a situation with the wolves herself. So I think that's kind of the basics here. But as you can see, you can kind of tell that there's a purge setup here. a unique night. You want to call it 12 hours. You want to call it sundown to sun up. Um, as opposed to the purge where people are going to go out and kill a bunch of people for whatever reason. This time we have wolves that are out in the street killing people because they can, because they want to, because they want to eat and kill and whatever. Um, and here we see a person who's bunkered down in the house and kind of set up and ready for this kind of thing. So we kind of see that as well. You're going to see him and the other scientists be on the streets and kind of go through that adventure of surviving the madness, surviving other people on the streets, surviving werewolves on the streets, and that. So we kind of see that in The Purge too, as we've seen followed several different groups of people making their way from place A to place B to kind of survive the night. So lots of similarities there. So again, like I said, pretty easy connection. So I guess if you like The Purge and you like that kind of thing, I guess it's a starting point for you, and starting point to kind of like and enjoy, and something to look forward to. And then if you like werewolves, these werewolves are pretty big and pretty fierce, and there are several of them. Sometimes they're in groups, sometimes you just see them in a solo situation, and then other times there are several of them. I thought they did a pretty good job with the look of the werewolves. I did not go through and look to see if it was CGI or real and vice versa, what they did, if they mixed it or not. Looked pretty good to me. I again saw this on a smaller screen, not the big screen movie theater, so sometimes that kind of makes a difference. But I could swear I saw some behind the scenes shots, and I'm pretty sure it was with this movie. I might have mixed it up with another movie, but I could swear it was from this movie, and it seemed to be they had live action werewolves there. I'm gonna go with that. I'm gonna believe that they did at least a certain amount of live action werewolves here, and did a pretty good job with it. I don't think they did any blown away kind of transformations. I think you really get one scene of it when they're in the laboratory and they're kind of running their experiment, and then some of them change. But I don't think there's nothing there to get blown away by, and anything kind of crazy there. You get bits and pieces of it, the transformation that is. I have not seen, as of doing this review, I've not seen Wolfman yet. But based on what I've seen from that movie, I'm guessing you'll see, a good transformation, and just based on the style of that movie and whatever. Again, have not seen it. I'm just, throwing it out there. I'm guessing you will see a transformation. How good it is or not, we'll see. But you don't really get that here. You kind of get bits and pieces of it when there is a transformation. But like I said, the werewolves are intimidating. They're big. They're tall. They're also kind of smart. They're not, just, there's still that human element within them. I think that's one thing you'll kind of see. So, they're just not wolves running around wild, trying to kill you. They will stand on 2 feet, obviously like we do, and so forth. And I think, you see the ones in particular that are attacking the sister-in-law and her daughter and the house, they are kind of exhibiting more of a thought process here, and something that, we would have gone through if we were trying to get into this house. Obviously not to the normal, not some of the normal stuff we would have done, but still, I think there's a little bit of that mix where they still had that human element to them, or at least that human thought process to them, in certain aspects. There's I don't want to say too much about the end or the final kind of act, but I think there's something that's, not totally unexpected that happens. Maybe they kind of play it off like you might not think it's coming, but then it happens and it's not so much. Um, and it kind of sets up, a interesting fight, a pretty dramatic fight. Um, my only, kind of thing with that is the two, I'm trying to say this as vague as possible to not ruin anything for you guys. Um, I would say maybe one you would expect, the other you wouldn't have expect. With what happens at the beginning in the laboratory, I would have thought that it would have been something, from there versus the other, as opposed to the one they picked. And it was a little, odd that even, that werewolf was attacking the house, and so forth. Um, I kind of get why, it kind of made it convenient in the place and the time. And again, I'm being very vague, so if you not following me, I'm sorry, but I don't want to give away too many spoilers. Trying to very new movie, trying to get spare you guys here, but I guess there's a couple of basically transformations here in this movie that of characters that you'll kind of at least know or get a glimpse of, and one of them is going to end up attacking the sister-in-law's house and then play a role later on in the movie. And then there's one in the lab which I thought would have played a bigger part than it did, and it just didn't. Um, so I guess that's the vaguest way I can kind of say it. But I guess that's just me trying to complain a little bit and be very vague and confuse you guys so you have no idea what I'm talking about. Anyway, so I thought overall the werewolves were good enough. It is, also a very action movie, besides the horror of it. Uh, I don't necessarily think that it got extremely bloody. There's a little bit in the lab when, um, you have just random people getting picked off by the werewolves that have transformed there. Um, but then, kind of later on when it's the two scientists that are just kind of getting away, obviously there's not a tremendous amount of death. Obviously the two of them are the story's kind of following them, so. Um, there's not too many other people around that are dying for your satisfaction or to give you the blood and guts that you may want. Um, there is a scene that kind of, brings in some more people later, a little bit ways on. But I didn't, again, necessarily think that kind of gave you a lot of blood and guts. So maybe I would have liked a little bit more of that, especially, considering the werewolves. It kind of seemed like one of those things where, the werewolf just kind of like went like this and the person was gone, and then you just assume that, okay, they've been ripped apart, and that was that. I don't remember anything kind of standing out. Yeah, there was a little bit, especially early on, but I don't remember there being anything that stood out that I'm going to be like, oh my God, I got to, say this because, tell you guys that, oh my God, this scene happened and whatever. But yeah, so I think, again, to kind of say what I said at the beginning, the best way to describe this is basically The Purge with werewolves. Kind of very action based with these wolves. Um, they try to twist the ending, but I think that a lot of you guys, a lot of the horror fans out there, I think you might have picked up that what happened was going to happen, and obviously they make it very dramatic and so forth, in the final moments of the film, and so forth. It set up for a decent fight scene, and that was all right. But I would say, it is what it is. It's kind of like an action movie with werewolves, and they do a decent job, and the werewolves were decent enough. They weren't really cheap. Again, I'm gonna say it. Here it comes. Did a decent job with these werewolves, whether they're real or CGI, whatever happened here. Maybe I'll figure it out eventually. But they still did a good job one way or the other. Do better, shark movies. Do better. How about the CGI shark nonsense? Do better. I'm not going to complain about the werewolves. They were good enough for me. Maybe some more blood and guts splattered, considering how big and mean and fierce they were. But I also thought, the sister-in-law, whatever, she was an okay character. I guess, there was a couple of just odd moments there, and you're just like, because they were trying to, I guess, kind of go back and forth between making her like seem like, oh, I'm a little bit defenseless here and whatever, to no, I am going to stand my guard here, protect my daughter, and I'm going to be that fierce woman here, and then kind of go back. And I don't know, there were some little moments there, whatever. And, I was kind of questioning some of her tactics and so forth, but whatever. Thought she put her daughter in danger a little bit too much as well. But, okay. So I guess at the end of the day, I'm going to give this 2.5 pools of blood. Kind of, that's out of 5. So right down the middle. Some good things, some okay things, nitpick here and there. I would say it's certainly better than I thought, because I almost didn't watch it, whatever. I think maybe when I saw that person say that it was The Purge with werewolves, maybe that kind of pushed me over the edge to kind of do it. I really wasn't sure whether I was going to watch this or not, just because, my expectations were low. So, I thought it was all right enough. Wasn't bad. I didn't regret it. I didn't turn it off. Made it through, and it kept my attention enough. Partly because, there was a lot of action going on. It didn't die down too much. It kind of kept moving and so forth. I didn't see, about an hour and a half. So, they move right on through. So, with that, I'll just kind of leave it there. So, horrorsquarereviews.blogspot.com is where you can catch all my reviews written in video. Certainly tons of video reviews as for a while now, so you can like and subscribe and do everything else that everybody wants you to do here on YouTube. If not, no worries. It is okay. I thank you for your time regardless. Twitter, Facebook information down below as well. Feel free to join me there. Talk about this movie, other movies, other werewolf movies. Maybe you've seen Wolfman already and say, you should have seen that one instead of this one. I hope to see that one soon enough. And definitely in the comment section, feel free to throw in your thoughts. This movie, whether you know for sure or not, whether they were CGI or not. I should have checked before, but, whatever. And anything else, if you want to reach out to me, feel free to do so there as well. So with that, I'll catch you in the next review, horror fans.